spy, hide, investigate, lurk, observe. These 5 words of power are used to describe the sewer rats, otherwise known as the Nosferatu, or do they actually? I'm your Lord and Saviour, and this is the Bloody Guide to Vampire Roleplay. The Nosferatu, regardless of their walk of life or the reason for their embrace, are varying levels of deformed, meaning they are varying levels of monstrous to look at. Some resemble Count Orlok, whilst others look even worse. Some, however, just look a little odd enough to make those in the know question what they just gazed upon. Such physical makeovers, for lack of a better description, can be traced back to the clan's demigod of a founder, the hateful antediluvian Absimiliard, whose singular goal is to exterminate his descendants. He was embraced by Zilla, whose reasoning varied but all stemmed from the vanity of the once beautiful hunter, frustrated by a wound cast upon his face post-hunt. Through spite, Zilla embraced the Nosferatu, or Nosferatu himself depending on who you ask, locking the wound into place. Absimiliard would not be too happy with this, being one of the main catalysts for the revolt against the second generation. Cain would punish Absimiliard, bringing the beast within to the surface, turning the third generation vampire into a physical monster. This would reverberate across his descendants, and since that time, Absimiliard has hunted his descendants, using blood-bound agents, the Niktuku, to hunt down the rest of the line. It is no secret that I adore the Nosferatu, the reasons for which are twofold. Partly because I'm a filthy monster fucker with a search history that would make the most deviant Setite blush, but that is a conversation we're not having tonight. The reason why I love the Nosferatu as a clan to roleplay is that they're actually one of the best clans for new players, but also for more experienced players who want a challenge. The monstrosities, as the World of Darkness HQ has started calling them, which definitely isn't ableist, are walking masquerade breaches, yes, which makes them an excellent starting point for the Nosferatu you wish to make. Is your character like most who wish to hide in plain sight and minimize encounters with the sheriff and hunters? If so, how? Do you cling to the shadows like it's your favorite blankie, or do you assume the guise of some random schmuck on the street? Or do you just wrap yourself up in lots of clothing and hope for the best? Or do you not give a fuck at all? Either way, thinking like this naturally gives you a better appreciation of upholding the masquerade with careful use of disciplines, or without. To that end, players who start off with the Nosferatu are also the first to learn that the disciplines have limits, as obfuscate is not total invisibility and animalism is not as straightforward as it appears to be, and potence is remarkably broken across all editions of Vampire the Masquerade, so you can only be destined for greatness when playing a Nosferatu, but more on those powers later. Let's return to the clan themselves. The questions I have just asked you have already unlocked many options for you, Absimiliard, and much of the clan who would be his descendants are not too happy with how they look, and many of them will never truly get accustomed to it. Vanity is the most common cause of vices found within the clan. Everyone around them is a reminder that they look wrong and do not belong. Monsters, freaks, and all the other things that anyone with any disability or deformity, major, minor, physical, or mental, will tell you. You can wear the mask and pretend to be confident in what you are, but there will be times when it will falter, and that one tear will trickle down the face of the broken soul. It is as rare as it is difficult for a Nosferatu to uphold mortal contacts in the traditional sense. They can attract pity from outcasts and rejects, and acquire servants and loyal followers who would know their face, but few others would, so contact with mortals should really be as sparse as possible. Save for only the Malkavians, the Nosferatu have always been at the bottom of the pile, never tasting the high clan sippy cup. This is especially true since the departure of the Bruja and Gangrel finally committed to the jump to the Anarchs. Some Nosferatu joined them, assuming the nickname Red Nosferatu, Red is the colour of blood, the shade of anarchy and liberation. It is associated with anger, and red Nosferatu are tired of such ableist treatment, not willing to hide and act like they're weaker kind, more willing to bare their chest and do what needs to be done to push back the Camarilla, even if it means making yourself a little more visible. Of course, the Anarchs don't offer that much variety from the Camarilla in terms of attitudes towards them. It also doesn't stop the fact that, at the end of the day, the only ones who understand the Nosferatu are other Nosferatu, which is why you will find most Nosferatu being fairly comfortable and open with members of the clan in opposing sects. Their abilities make the Nosferatu excellent spies and information brokers, whether they actually seek them out on foot, fall under the stereotypical hacker, or just the shoulder to cry on cause no one else will listen. Those who are inclined can make for pretty monstrous assassins too. Information and secrets are far more valuable to Kindred than liquid assets, which is why they are so needed within the Camarilla, something you won't hear any officials say too loudly. The Camarilla offers them no security, which is why most chose to stay. From this point, we reach a crossroads in this lonely existence. You can keep walking straight and just, to the best of your ability, exist and be indifferent about your predicament. The other two paths lean into the monster and the person you once were. Starting with the latter. 5th edition, via the writers at Onyx Path Publishing, the Cleopatra has been reintroduced. This term is used by the Nosferatu to refer to their clan members who were turned into vampires due to their exceptional beauty, although some Nosferatu use this term as a form of punishment for those who are both beautiful and cruel. Not all Cleopatras are vain. Even those with kind personalities may become targets of the Nosferatu who harbour an intense hatred for beauty. Those that are vain may try and emulate their former lives or embrace new mortal ones, wearing fancy clothes, doing makeup, doing their hair, or what remains of it. All those fun, glamorous things with the finesse of a drunk hippo. It should be noted that Nosferatu who can pull this off particularly well are the ones with more influence in court or with devoted mortal followers that give them resources. Those who are more desperate to find a means to undo their curse have tried to join the cult of Yima or seek out the Nephilim cult. If your Nosferatu is clinging onto the old ways, try and think why they are like this and what lengths they would go to prove that they are as normal or regular as any other vampire. What fuels them? Sadness or spite? How do they exert their influence, emulating the local toreador or form or join a cult? A variant of this cult idea can be found in most V5 cults as well, to create a sense of family or individuality, where you can forget for a time that you are a Nosferatu at all. Now, this path also has a path where you hate what you are and hate others of your ilk, becoming one of the Withered Ones cult, embracing the Niktuku legends, assuming that is indeed what you believe and don't need additional validation to kill off others of your ilk. There's also a thing within the cult where they steal Nosferatu as well, so keep that in mind as well. Then there are those who choose to embrace the monster they appear to be and be the boogeymen of everyone's nightmares. This is the main other path some Nosferatu tend to walk down, or one that is immediately quite difficult to do as freely as one would like, not just because of the threat of the Masquerade breaching result in death by sheriff, hound or hunter, but because 5th edition doesn't allow the benefits one may hope of playing a vampire who is not as humane as everyone else is trying to emulate. This is on a mechanical level, however, as there is plenty one can do to roleplay this, revealing clothing or lack of clothing at all, displaying your true self to the world, talking to animals a lot, as a beast might, and being more violent and open with your tactics. There is also little need for obfuscate when potence can just aid in removing witnesses. This can also be amplified with the forming or joining of a cult, where the vampiric existence is at the very forefront of its agenda, or displaying to the world that the Nosferatu are the vampires in their intended form. So you can hopefully see that with these examples and descriptions in mind, there is lots of potential for Nosferatu players to roleplay some truly unique ideas, rarely sticking to one core theme and stereotype. The same can be said with the usage of their 3 disciplines: animalism, obfuscate, and potence. Animals make the best sort of spies, as well as small, irritating torture devices, but so can potence, breaking limbs in quick succession or reminding everyone that just because the Nosferatu keep to the shadows doesn't mean that they are pushovers. Obfuscate, despite belonging to other clans, is really their signature tune. Whether it's to hide in plain sight or use Mask of 1,000 Faces to look like someone they're not, there are plenty of uses the Nosferatu make with Obfuscate. With this wide range of functions, there are many ways you can bend predator types to fit your kindred concepts, but it is difficult to pinpoint specific examples because of how broad one can be with it. Many Nosferatu would naturally fit the alley cat predator type, as they are beggars and they don't have luxury to choose. Those with more influence and a means to extort their victims may feed by means of the extortionist predator type. Those who want to minimize contact with humans might want to feed on sleeping parties with Cleopatras may try and be consensualists or cleavers, or maybe even a farmer or blood leech if feeding on people is wrong for them, or even bagger or grave robber if hunting is just too much for their sensitive souls. Though, if they are really fucking confident or know that they can get away feeding on monster fuckers like me, Siren would be an interesting fit. Cult members or leaders would naturally gear towards Osiris and Scene Queen. More monstrous or unpleasant Nosferatu would adopt Pursuer or Trapdoor as their methods of feeding, becoming real slashers in the process. There are many lore sheets you can assign to your character, but here are some of the ones I think fit well with tonight's clan. The Nosferatu gotta get that dank lore and knowledge, so if they can hook up with any specific kindred mentioned in any lore sheet, any of them is a good bet, especially if they are a Nosferatu. Some of these kindred-specific lore sheets put you right in the action with specific titles or focus on combat, which are worth seeking out, in addition to any lore sheets that has you take up arms. Any lore sheet that touches upon specific events or groups such as the Trinity, the Society of Leopold, First Light, Lupine Expert, Kindred Iconography, the Week of Nightmares, the Promise of 1528 and so forth, may be worth checking into as well. There are some Nosferatu-only lore sheets which are, as of the time of writing this script, London Under London from Fall of London, Niktuku from the Winter's Teeth comic, Descendants of Zelios from the core book, and Cleopatra from the Children of the Blood source book from Anarchs Publishing. Kindred social media influencer might be worth considering too if your kindred Cleopatra is not interested in the Cleopatra lore sheet but can't tear away from the site formerly known as Twitter or TikTok. If your Nosferatu is an ugly, disease-ridden fiend, blood-plagued or plagues of Gehenna might add some lovely gross bits to your Nosferatu. There are many ways one can build a character. Some of them are wrong, but most of them are right. Ultimately, it should be the narrative that drives the stats, powers, and mechanics that work with and against them. These are just my takes, and mine alone. How would you build a character belonging to this vampire clan? What wouldn't you do? What would you add to shake things up and make that concept just a little bit spicy? Let me know in the comments below. To be kept updated, follow the Law by Night VTM Instagram and Blue Sky pages to find out when we upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, and should be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.